poem for today is part of a much larger work by Wallace Stevens called Notes Toward a Supreme Fiction. It's a long, long poem in 3 parts, each part containing 10 cantos, which are units each of 7 stanzas, 3 lines each. And what we are dealing with is the first part of these notes, which is entitled by the poet, "It Must Be Abstract," and we're dealing with the second canto. But however, we're not dealing with the entire canto. We're only going to be dealing with 10 lines of the canto. The name of this is, we're going to call it The Philosopher Desires, because that's the theme. This will begin. But the priest desires, the philosopher desires, and not to have is the beginning of desire. To have what is not is its ancient cycle. It is desire at the end of winter, when it observes the effortless weather turning blue and sees the myosotis on its bush being virile. It hears the calendar hymn. It knows that what it has is what is not, and throws it away like a thing of another time, as morning throws off stale moonlight and shabby sleep. This, the beginning of desire, I first came to this line through the very title of Dr. Aviva Zornberg's wonderful book on Breshit, on Genesis, that is called The Beginning of Desire. And through that, I came to this long, long poem. But right now, I only want to talk about this. The priest desires, the philosopher desires, everybody desires. Not to have is the beginning of desire, that which we don't have. So let us begin our exploration. When is the first time that we find somebody desiring that which they don't have, or shouldn't have, or can't have? In fact, the first time in the Torah that we have the Hebrew word for desire, which is, of course, ta'ava, desire. Of course, that is in connection with the one thing, the one tree, the one fruit, if you will, in the garden, in the Gan Eden, from which we were told as the first humans, Mikol Eitz Hagan Achol, you can eat all the fruit of any tree, however Meitz Hadat Tov V'Ra, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you're not allowed to eat from it. And of course, we know the story, seduced by the fruit. Indeed, the fruit is described in the Torah with the first time that the word ta'ava is used, that the fruit is so beautiful. It is ta'ava hu le'einayim. The eyes. So beautiful. Why can't I have it? And indeed, the whispering, the hissing of the snake, the external snake, and as we know, the internal snake says, why not? Right? The Torah tells us, beware of that hissing, that internal hissing. And we say it every day. V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. Do not go astray after your heart and after that which your eyes see. But we did. It may not be true that in Adam's fall fell we all, but it certainly is true that in Adam's fall we all. We repeat it all the time. And indeed, this state of being consumed by desire gives birth, if you will, to a very puzzling Gemara in which says that there is a remez, an allusion to Haman in the Torah, that the name Haman is mentioned in the Torah. And what is that? Hey Mem Nun makes Haman. Those are the Hebrew letters from Haman. But Hey Mem Nun can be also read, and is often read, Hamin, as in Hamin Ha'etz, when God addresses Adam Harishon after the sin and says, did you eat from the tree? Hamin Ha'etz, Haman Min Ha'etz. And Haman, of course, represents the same kind of a thing. Because what is the issue of Haman? The issue of Haman is that enough is never enough for Haman. What is Haman complaining about when he comes home? It's in the 5th chapter of Megillat Esther, and he comes home and he tells them at Kavod Ashro, Rov Bonav, everything, he's wealthy, family, that Kol Asher Gidlo HaMelech, the king has made him great, Veit Asher Niso Al Sarim B'Avdei HaMelech, and he's the highest ranking officer. Vayomer Haman, Aflo Hevia Esther Hamalki Mamelech Al Mishte Asher Asata Kimoti, and I'm the only one who's invited by Queen Esther to the feast together with the king. V'gamani Macharani Karuloi Mamelech, and I'm invited back to her tomorrow. However, v'chol zeh nenu shoveli, this means nothing to me, it's not worthwhile. B'chol eit asher ani roeh et Mordechai HaYehudi yoshev b'shar HaMelech, when I see that Mordechai, that Jew Mordechai, is sitting, he doesn't stand up for me like all the other servants, all the other members of the royal retinue, or all the common folk, and Mordechai is the one who refuses to stand, and I can't take it. I don't have enough. It's not worthwhile to me. And this idea that enough is never enough, there's no enough, is expressed in a Gemara Makos, other places. Mi sheyesh lo mana, ohev kesef, the pasuk says, a person who loves money, lo yispa kesef, he'll never be sated. Mi sheyesh lo mana, rotzam asayim, if you have 100, let's say $100, you want 200, and if you have 200, you want 400, and so on, in an endless spiral. It's never enough. And what that which we can't have, that's the sweetest. The pasuk in Mishlei tells us, Mayim genuvim, stolen waters. Im taku, it's sweet. V'lechem starim, and bread taken illicitly. Yinam, pleasant. And in fact, this is one of the explanations for why Chazal tell us that Gadol HaMitzuva V'Yosa, a person who does a mitzvah because he's commanded to do it, is greater than the person who does something which he's not commanded to do. Because what we're commanded to do, we have to do, right? So we don't want to be commanded. We want to do something else, something new, right? And that's, we want to renew things all the time. Okay? I shouldn't say renew. We want to truly new. Okay? The problem is that we can't we're not interested in renewing. And Chazal tell us in Pirkei Avos, the beginning of Perek Daled, Ezel Oshir, who's really a rich person? So let's count, let's imagine, am I rich? Am I rich as this? This guy has $1 billion, this guy has $10 billion, this guy has $100 billion. Ezel Oshir, the only true rich person in the world, truly rich person, is a person who sameach b'chelko, who rejoices in what he has. And indeed, this is the difference between two character types, and they both appear in Parshas Vayishlach. The one is Yaakov, who sends a present to his brother Esav, and Yaakov says, "Yesh li kol, I have everything." But Esav says, "Yesh li rav, I have a lot." Whatever Yaakov has, it's everything. Whatever Esav has, it's a lot. But where there's a lot, there will always be more. There's a wonderful Gemara in Makos on the pasuk in which the Navi says, in the name of God, "Varikoti lachem bracha ad belidai." If I'm testing you in this, if you can give charity, if you give the trumot and the masrot, the tithes, and so on and so forth, then I will, if you can give away, then varikoti lachem bracha ad b'lidayim lo eftach lachem et arubot hashamayim, I will open the windows of heaven, varikoti lachem bracha ad b'lidai, and I will give unto you, I will bestow upon you bracha ad, until b'li, without, die, enough. What does that mean? So the Gemara says, my ad b'lidai. What does that mean? It means ad sheyivlu siftotecha milomar dai. The word believe, which means without, is also a verb, levalot, bala, simlotechem lo baltu, balu, right? It means to wear out until your lips wither from saying enough, enough, enough. Which means, like, it would seem to be at first blush as saying, the bracha I'm going to give you will be endless, right? But maybe it could be something else. I will give you a bracha till the point that you will begin to understand, and this too is part of the bracha, to know when it is enough, when you will say enough, and to know when enough is in fact a bracha. It's a bracha that is expressed in a story and a koan. The story is Yechiel Michal of Zolochov, who was very, very poor. He was a chassid, a talmid of the Baal Shem Tov, very poor. And some chassidim once asked him after davening, how can you say Shasali Kol Tsarki, that you bless God who has given me everything I need when you don't have anything? You're so poor. And the Maggid Zolochov said, no, that's the bracha, because maybe what I have is what I need, and that's all I need. And there's a Zen koan, it is enough to know that enough is enough. It is not a bracha to always say, I don't have enough. Now, of course, ta'ava, desire, is part of the human condition. Woe be to a person who has no desire. In fact, we use the desire when we talk about God himself, desire for God. When the Rambam talks about the love of God, he talks about a person is mitaveh ta'ava gedolah leida Hashem HaGadol. He experiences a great lust to know God, right? So there is nothing wrong with ta'ava. It's healthy. Beware a person who is completely without ta'ava. But what we are talking about, and what the poet is talking about, what Wallace Stevens is talking about, is our always identifying, if you will, the object of lust that which is something new. We are condemned for our need for the new all the time, rather than taking note of the beauty in the old. And what we think is the good and worth desiring only is that which we don't have. Not to have is the beginning of desire. To have what is not is its ancient cycle. It is desire at the end of winter when it observes the effortless weather turning blue and sees the myosotis. Now, what is myosotis? Myosotis is what we call the flower forget-me-not. And there is a Greek myth about this, that Zeus, naming all the flowers, seems to have forgotten a little flower, a little blue flower, which calls out, forget-me-not. And that becomes its name. Being virile, it hears the calendar hymn. It knows that which it has is what is not. That which it has is what is not. What I have is not worthwhile, and throws it away like a thing of another time. They, as morning throws off a stale moonlight and shabby sleep. We make a bracha every night. The night. And we are in wonder at the beauty of the night and the beauty of the day, but we don't wake up in the morning and say, stale moonlight, shabby sleep. We appreciate our ability to experience night as much as to experience day. And we don't say, oh, same old, same old, same old. Each one is beautiful. Each one is new. However, not to have is the beginning of desire. That's true. When man first went wrong, it was because he and she could have everything except for one thing, and that began desire. Not to have is the beginning of desire. The priest desires, the philosopher desires. Desire is healthy, but it's dangerous. Dangerous. Let us have the wisdom to desire the beauty that is in that which is the everyday, and the wisdom to stay away from the idea that beauty is that which is beyond us.